Listen carefully, because the techniques you're about to hear about are not cool martial arts tricks. They are not for sport. They are not for showing off. They are the reason certain movements are erased from training manuals, banned from competitions, and never demonstrated openly. Most people think martial arts are about discipline, respect, belts, tournaments. That belief is exactly why they would lose in a real situation. Because real violence doesn't look like a dojo. It doesn't wait for rules. It doesn't care about fairness. And the human body? It has weak points so fragile that the right strike, in the right angle, for the right half second, can shut a person down permanently. Death is not dramatic. It's quiet, fast, and often accidental. Here's what no one tells you. Most deadly techniques were never designed to kill. They were designed to end a threat instantly. But the line between ending a threat and ending a life is thinner than you think. Right now you might be thinking, I would never use something like that. I'm not violent. I don't need this. That confidence? It's ignorance. Because knowledge doesn't make you dangerous. Lack of knowledge makes you helpless. And the people who understand these techniques, they don't brag, they don't demonstrate, they don't warn. They simply know what not to do and what must never land by mistake. In this video, I'm not going to glorify violence. I'm not going to teach you how to hurt someone. I'm going to show you why these techniques are forbidden, what makes them so lethal, and why even trained fighters are warned to never use them. Because understanding danger is how you survive it, and once you see how fragile the human body truly is, you will never look at martial arts or your own strength the same way again. Before we continue, you need to understand one thing clearly. Nothing in this video is about learning to hurt people. It's about understanding why certain movements are never taught, never shown in competitions, and never forgiven when used. Because martial arts didn't begin as sport, they began as survival systems, and survival has no moral code. 1. The human body is not strong, it's delicate. Movies lie to you. They make humans look durable, like we can take hits forever, like pain is the only consequence. That's false. The human body is a biological machine full of shutdown switches, and some techniques target those switches directly, not muscle. Not strength, not toughness. The brain, the spinal signals, the blood flow, the breathing reflex, interrupt those for seconds, and the body panics. Interrupt them slightly longer, and the body doesn't recover. 2. Why some strikes are banned instantly. In combat sports, there are rules for a reason, not to make fights boring, but to keep fighters alive. Certain strikes are banned not because they're unfair, but because there is no safe version of them, no controlled version, no light version, no warning version. Even trained professionals cannot fully regulate the damage once these techniques land. That's why referees stop fights, because the body doesn't negotiate once certain systems fail. 3. The neck is not just a target, it's a kill switch. The neck controls everything. Blood to the brain, signals from the spine, breathing reflexes. That's why techniques involving this area are treated differently, not because they look violent, but because they work too well. Cut oxygen too fast, the brain panics. Disrupt blood flow, vision collapses. Shock nerve clusters, the body shuts down. And once the body goes unconscious the wrong way, gravity finishes the damage. 4. Small motions, permanent consequences. Here's the most dangerous truth. Deadly techniques are rarely big movements. They are small, fast, almost invisible. A twist, a compression, a sudden redirection. That's why accidents happen. That's why instructors warn students again and again, never apply full force. Never test this. Never try this outside training. Because once momentum starts, you can't call it back. 5. Pain is not the goal. Shutdown is. Pain makes people react. Shutdown makes people stop. The most forbidden techniques bypass pain completely. No screaming, no warning, no dramatic struggle. The person simply collapses, and that silence, that's what terrifies experienced fighters, because silence means something critical just failed. 6. Why military and survival systems hide these methods. In real survival systems, the goal isn't domination, it's ending danger immediately. No points, no rounds, no medical staff waiting nearby. That's why these techniques are restricted to context, because once learned without restraint, they become liabilities. A moment of anger, a moment of fear, a moment of ego, that's all it takes. 7. Strength is not what makes these techniques deadly. This part is uncomfortable. You don't need to be strong. You don't need to be big. You don't need to be aggressive. These techniques work because the human body responds the same way every time. Physics, biology, reflex. And that's exactly why they're banned, because they remove fairness from the equation. 8. The difference between defense and disaster. There's a line, a very thin one. On one side, self-defense. On the other, irreversible damage. And most people don't even know where that line is. That ignorance is what turns accidents into tragedies. 9. Why knowledge is more important than power. Knowing these techniques doesn't make you violent. It makes you aware. Aware of what not to do. Aware of how fragile situations really are. Aware of how quickly things can go wrong. The most dangerous people aren't trained fighters. They're untrained people who think they're invincible. 10. The real lesson behind forbidden techniques. These techniques exist as warnings. They remind us, the human body is not a toy. Conflict is not a game. And control matters more than confidence. Martial arts were never meant to create monsters. They were meant to teach restraint. If this video made you uncomfortable, that's a good thing, because comfort creates carelessness, and carelessness around violence destroys lives faster than intention ever could. Most people go their entire lives without realizing how fragile they truly are. They think danger looks loud, obvious, predictable. It doesn't. And that's why understanding forbidden techniques isn't about learning to use them. It's about knowing why they must never be used lightly. Now I want you to think carefully. Should knowledge like this be hidden forever? Or should people understand the reality behind it responsibly? Comment below. Do you think banning techniques makes people safer or just less aware? I read every comment. And if you want the next video breaking down why some self-defense myths get people hurt, you know what to do.